and you're going to hear from them about, the work that we do and how you all are critical to that work. So I'm going to start just by introducing my co-directors and have them say a quick salam, and then we'll go ahead and get you guys going on your Sunday evening, inshallah. So we have Wilfredo Ruiz, who is our communications director.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I'm here in South Florida. I'm the communications director. Wilfredo, welcome, everybody. Remember to connect with us on Wednesdays at noon as well.
And Ms. Tanya Clevenger, who is our operations director and acting civil rights director.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here this Sunday with you. Really excited about learning what your questions are about CAIR Florida and engaging with all of you today and every Wednesday.
And then, of course, the man himself, the executive director, Mr. Hassan Shibli. And Hassan, I'm actually going to hand it over to you to say some opening words, inshallah.
Very good. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah walhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah. Wa ashhadu anna sayyidina Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. I am extremely grateful for this opportunity to connect with our brothers and sisters from all over the state to have this critical conversation about what are we doing to defend our faith, to defend justice, to defend the Muslim community, to stand against Islamophobia in these challenging times. And I know right now we are in a temporary test. This too shall pass. Who is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves? If you look at the Holy Quran, you will see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves الَّذِينَ اتَّبَعُوهُ فِي سَاعَةِ الْعُسْرَةِ, those who follow the messenger, those who invest in defending their deen, those who invest in defending justice, those who invest in defending the poor and in the needy in the difficult times. The difficult times will pass, but Allah does not forgive who rose to the occasion and stayed consistent in standing for justice, in defending our faith, in defending the Muslim community in these difficult times. So I want to applaud all of you. I want to thank you all for your critical efforts, for joining us for this very important conversation about what CAIR Florida is doing. See, the truth of the matter is sometimes I get scared. Why do I get scared? Because alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, thanks to your support, CAIR Florida has grown to be so successful over the years that my fear is that the Muslim community will become complacent. In other words, they will forget that it is the job of all of us to defend justice. It's the job of all of us to defend civil rights. It's the job of all of us to defend our faith. When there are Muslims that are oppressed in jails, and subhanAllah, I just got a message today from a brother who visited the jail to check up on the Muslim inmates. And he said, Hassan, I was surprised at the strength that CAIR Florida has. When I went there, I could see how much respect the jail leadership had for the CAIR Florida team because they are standing fearlessly for defending the Muslim community. In fact, just last week, despite this craziness happening with COVID-19, we had a call with the state attorney's office, both in Hillsborough County and even in Jacksonville, in Duval County. And the state attorney's office reached out to us because they recognized, well, we pointed out for them, that they're violating the rights of Muslim inmates, that there are Muslims who are in jail, some paying for crimes that they may have committed, some wrongfully. But despite that, they're being forced to have their beards shaven off. When a Muslim woman is arrested, they're forcing her hijab off. They're photographing her with hijab. And there's like 50, 60 counties in Florida and up. And each county has these policies, and you have to fight these policies in each county. Jewish inmates are getting kosher food. Muslim inmates are not getting halal food. They're not even being given kosher food. So their rights are being violated. The Muslim inmates are calling us. They're calling me on my cell phone. Brother Shibli, we need your help. So the point is, just because there's COVID, it doesn't mean injustice and oppression against the Muslim community doesn't stop. But the beautiful thing, and I love to use both the Hillsborough County example and the Duval County example, is that CAIR Florida is so strong now, thanks to your support, that we don't have to sue to get the right thing done. Because simply by our presence and by our strength and by them knowing the resources that we have, they're accommodating right away. So in the case of Duval County, their lawyers called us and they said, Brother Shibli, Mr. Shibli, you don't have to sue us. We want to work with you. You know what? Effective immediately, we changed our policy. So we are no longer shaving Muslim inmates by force. We are working on changing our policy, so we will no longer remove the hijab of Muslim women. And we're going to work with you to also, inshallah, provide halal food for the Muslim inmates. So alhamdulillah, we didn't have to sue. And this is a point I want you to understand is that, and I hate to use this example, but forgive me, a nation that has a powerful army never has to go to war. Why? Because that army serves as a deterrence. An effective nation is a peaceful nation. It's peaceful because it's invested in resources to protect itself. So its enemies, those that are unjust, know, listen, we can't go up against these guys because if we do, we're going to be in trouble. So CAIR Florida, the less we are suing, the more effective we are. In fact, I would say, and CAIR Florida, every single year, we get tens of millions of dollars of positive media coverage for the community. But the less we are in the news, maybe perhaps the more effective we are, because it means that we've actually been able to prevent incidents of discrimination from happening. We've been able to prevent instances of injustice from happening. Walhamdulillah. So the point is that I want to emphasize two things. Number one, our work hasn't stopped. Our team's been working overtime, alhamdulillah, remotely. What we've done is we've first focused on helping a number of Muslims that were stuck overseas return home. Secondly, we've been very busy in Muslim prisoner rights. Thirdly, we've been actually really busy helping immigrants as well. For example, a lot of people, maybe they're green card holders. They were visiting family overseas. Now they're stuck and they can't return within the 6-month limit that they're supposed to return if they're on green card. So we're working directly with Homeland Security to ensure that they're not treated unfairly and that this doesn't count against them. Many of you, and sometimes I'll be real with you guys, and this is all about having frank, real conversation. Sometimes some of our donors, they talk to me, Hassan, I'm a little bit scared because aren't you guys too harsh with the government? But what they don't understand is, alhamdulillah, listen, I'm a proud American. I'm a civil rights lawyer. We know the system. We earn their respect through our strength. So very simple example, one of the top heads of US Customs and Border Protection, when the lockdown happened, personally texted me on my cell phone saying, Mr. Shibli, we appreciate the great work you guys are doing. I just want to check up on you and your family. Are you guys doing all right? Do you guys need anything? Now, you guys, if you know me, we're always bashing US Customs and Border Protection when they violate the rights of Muslims. We're suing them and we're winning in our lawsuits of them. Despite that, their leadership is calling us, not just for professional things, but on a personal level, just to check up on us because we've earned their respect. They themselves told us, subhanAllah, I've had multiple people within government, from Department of Homeland Security to US Customs and Border Protection, to even the sheriff's department say, if we ever needed lawyers to represent us, we'd want the CAIR lawyers to represent us. That's a reflection of our strength and our respect in this country. When you stand for your rights, you actually earn the respect. So I'm very proud that's what the CAIR Florida team does. But I was mentioning to you guys that I'm scared. What am I scared of? Because of our success, I fear that sometimes the community can become complacent, take our victories for granted, and forget the individual responsibility that we all have to defend our faith and to defend justice. And that's why we wanted to have this dialogue, this conversation. A lot of times also people, when they think of CAIR Florida, some people, alhamdulillah, they recognize that we are a powerful team. We're not a one-man show. But to be honest, a lot of people sometimes just think of myself, or maybe just think of Wilfredo, or maybe just think of Rania or Tanya. I want you to recognize we are not a one-man show. We're a team. A powerful team, phenomenal staff working day in and day out. So today I want you to hear from some of our directors, some of our leadership directly about what work CAIR Florida is doing to defend Islam, to defend Muslims, to defend civil rights, to defend the oppressed, to defend our community, and how you can be involved and how you can support us, not just financially, although to talk about that financially is important. May Allah help our Muslim organizations. At CAIR Florida, the money we raise in our banquets is enough to keep us going all the way till Ramadan. And alhamdulillah, we've been successful. We have enough to keep us going to Ramadan. But then the money we raise in Ramadan, we rely on that to do our work for the end of the year. We have 5 offices you're going to see in this presentation. Please, bear with me. I'm going to wrap up because I want you to hear from the directors. But you'll see we have 5 offices. We got about 25 staff. We got 1,000 cases a year we do for the community. So the money we raise in Ramadan keeps us going to the end of the year. And we rely on the fundraisers, about 40 that we do, which are all pretty much canceled now because of the COVID situation. So we're going to rely on the generosity of the community. I'll have Sister Rania later show a slide. If you do want to make a donation, the number you can call or you can text, go to our website to ensure that we can continue serving the community. But ultimately, it's not just about the donations. It's about all of you being involved. For example, we need all of you to be registered to vote. We need all of you to fill out the census and ask your friends, be amplifiers. When CAIR Florida puts out an alert, hey, fill out the census. Why? So our community is counted. We need you to fill it out and share it. There's a lot of action items to be done besides just donating. So in the end of the day, my brothers and sisters, I wrap up with this. I want you all to take ownership of CAIR Florida, to recognize that CAIR Florida is your organization, that defending Islam and Muslims is not just our responsibility, it's all of our responsibility. Take ownership, listen to what the directors are doing, but then give us feedback, tell us what we can do better, how we can serve you differently. And I'll tell you, one of the things that saddens me the most, be very real with you, is a lot of times, you know, I speak to people and maybe when they speak to me, they offer nothing but support, but then through the grapevine, I hear, oh, they have this question or this objection, and it's things they never brought to our attention. And most of the time it's just misinformation. Most of the time it's just misinformation. So we want to clear this up by having these kinds of conversations and let us know, how can we work better to defend the deen of Allah and the creation of Allah? So then when we meet Allah, He is pleased with us. Together, it's a responsibility. This is your organization. I want to learn from you. So I'm excited to have this conversation with the directors, and I'm excited to pass the conversation on. And remember, the effort to stand for justice for the poor, for the needy in difficult times, in times of hardship, is elevated tremendously. The sacrifice is temporary, but the reward is eternal. And in the hardships we face are gifts from Allah, because these hardships allow us to do something for Allah that even the angels can't do, and that's to sacrifice for Allah. So when we sacrifice our effort, our time, our wealth, especially in difficult times, the Prophet ﷺ said the best sadaqah is the sadaqah when you fear poverty. In these difficult times, that is when we can secure the eternal pleasure of Allah. May Allah accept from all of us together. We're going to open up the chat for the whole group shortly in a little bit, so we can have you all participate, ask questions, be involved. And with that, inshallah, I'm going to pass the floor back to our dear sister Rania, that we're very proud recently joined us, mashallah, as one of our senior directors. Thank you for joining us. I'm excited for this conversation. Please invite your friends, click the share button if you're watching it on Facebook, or text people the link, and let's learn from each other. How can we work better to gain the pleasure of Allah through defending His deen and serving His creation?
I mean, Jazakallahu khairan, Hassan. I appreciate that. Just a little bit of housekeeping for everyone. So this is a webinar style. So you guys can see and hear us, but we cannot see you. So rest assured, we can't see you, and we also can't hear you. But we do want you guys to interact with us. We want it to be very engaging. So please share your questions in the Q&A section. We can see your questions, and then, you know, we'll definitely monitor them and answer them, inshallah. The chat will be open shortly, momentarily. SubhanAllah, you know, we did have to take some precautions, because there's been instances, if you think that the work of CAIR is not needed, there's been instances of Zoom bombings and people kind of really sending out profanity and hate. So as soon as we've gotten the presentation running, then we'll open up the chat for everyone to interact with us, and we definitely want to hear from you in that way. So that's the housekeeping, and inshallah, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we'll go ahead and begin the presentation, inshallah.
And I'm excited as she's pulling it out, mashallah. We have 55 people on the Zoom presentation as guests. May Allah elevate you and accept you and fulfill your needs in this life and the next. And mashallah, we have about 40 people watching live on Facebook. So almost 100 of us gathered this blessed Sunday to talk about the best of things, how we can work together to defend justice.
Alhamdulillah. So CAIR Florida, this is our advocates launch. Again, just also the launch of our Sunday programming, Connect with CAIR. So we're starting at the basics with who is CAIR and what do we do. This is something that you guys have seen before, right? Our mission at CAIR is to enhance understanding of Islam, encourage dialogue, protect civil liberties, empower American Muslims, and build coalitions to promote justice and understanding. Now that's a lot of words, and we want to break that down. We want everyone to walk away from this call today, inshallah, knowing exactly what that actually means, right? Even starting with the basic of what is a civil liberty, because for a lot of us, you know, who don't work in this space, it might be something that words that, you know, don't always resonate. So, you know, your civil liberties are basically your rights that are afforded to you by virtue of you being a part of this country. So whether you're a citizen or whether you're a non-citizen, this land is governed by law. You know, it's governed by the Constitution and its laws. And as such, you are afforded certain protections, certain freedoms, not to be discriminated against by virtue of what you look like or what you practice. And so that's ultimately what CAIR Florida is all about, is protecting your freedoms, protecting your freedom, like Hassan has said, to be a Muslim without fear in public, and to be able to live your faith without, you know, any fear of persecution or fear that you won't have the rights that are afforded to your fellow countrymen and women. So That being said, we still ran into this issue, which was all of the folks asking, what is it that CAIR does? You guys do so much, can you tell me specific things? So with that, CAIR launched a peer campaign, and we wanted to make it very easy and simple on people, so that whenever anyone says, what is it that CAIR do? Our response is, CAIR appears for the Muslim American community. We advocate, we protect, we prevent, we empower, we activate, and we represent the American Muslim community. And bonus points to anyone on the call who can memorize that by the end of the call. And to show you how that's done and what each of those things means, we have a short video for you. So Bismillah, let us know in the Q&A if you can't hear or you're having any technical
The Council on American Islamic Relations Florida is a nonprofit organization that was established in 2001 and is part of a national federation of state chapters. CAIR Florida's mission is to enhance the understanding of Islam, protect civil rights, promote justice, and empower American Muslims. Each day, CAIR Florida helps victims of discrimination, challenges unjust laws, and advocates for more equitable policies. Having 5 offices across the state ensures large populations remain well represented. We use a holistic approach to end discrimination. We fight Islamophobia by gaining public awareness from media and elected officials. We represent marginalized individuals when we appear through our hands-on approach. We aim to appear, advocate via pro bono legal representation, prevent discrimination by educating those in power, protect by teaching how to safeguard oneself by knowing their rights, empower communities to take action and change unjust systems, activate individuals to fulfill their civil duties, represent the Muslim American community by challenging stereotypes. CAIR Florida initiatives include youth empowerment, prisoners' rights, right to work, get out the vote, watch list, women's rights, interfaith, interacting with law enforcement, paths to citizenship program, and more. Everyone has the right to fair and equal treatment, and we cannot do it without you. Together, we will achieve justice and mutual understanding. Your support makes CAIR Florida's work possible by helping us further our mission of protecting the most vulnerable populations throughout the state of Florida. You can help support the work of CAIR Florida by donating, volunteering, and staying informed. Visit our website at cairflorida.org to learn more, and don't forget to follow us on social media.
Okay, so alhamdulillah, you guys have learned a little more about what it means for CAIR to appear on behalf of the community, but also with the community. So just to go through it once more, we advocate pro bono legal representation. We protect by helping the Muslim American community to know what their rights are, and helping people in positions of authority to understand what our rights are as well. Prevent discrimination by educating people. So not just being reactive, but being proactive in preventing discrimination wherever possible. Empower communities, activate them to participate civically and representing American Muslims. And we're gonna, share more case examples of how exactly we do that as we go on, inshallah. So before we actually get to a little bit about CAIR, we had a Kahoot interactive quiz planned for you guys, but there's so many people on the call, mashallah, that we won't be able to do it that way. But I'm going to go ahead and open up the chat and ask you guys to go ahead and put in the chats a few answers to questions. So let me just.
And while she's pulling up the chat, I just want to say I'm so excited, mashallah. I wish I could read each and every one of your names individually. In this conversation right now, I see so many great friends and supporters, people who have stood with us, who have sacrificed so much. You all know who you are. May Allah reward you. People who have given a lot of financial support, a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of du'as for CAIR Florida. You guys are change makers. You're helping change this country for the better. I'll tell you, I know people sometimes complain that I travel a lot. I said, maybe that's why somebody made dua that I stopped traveling and then COVID happened. But the situation is true. Wherever I go throughout the US and even across the world, people mention that they're inspired by CAIR Florida's work and that it inspires them to work harder to defend our faith in our community. You all, may Allah reward you, each and every one of you. If we had more time, I would personally thank each one by name, but may I ask Allah to reward you on our behalf. Jazakumullah khairan.
So before we go ahead with the presentation, we want to hear from you guys. We want to do a little pre-test, post-test. So go ahead and type into the chat the answer to 3 questions. The first being, what region are you joining from? So CAIR Florida, we're about to find out, is a statewide organization with 5 offices. So go ahead and share with everyone what region, and we can make it a little competitive. The staff has learned about me that I'm a very highly competitive person. And so I like to make everything into a competition. So let's see, we got a lot of Tampas. Okay, Tampa being strong.
A lot of good friends from Tampa. Allah bless you guys. But we see Orlando and South Florida, even somebody from New York, mashallah.
Nice.
That's great. That's great. And then also, if you guys want to go ahead and put in a little test for you all before we tell you, how large do you think the staff of CAIR Florida is? So our total staff, what do you think that number is?
So would it be unfair if we answer, Rania, then?
Yes.
Fine. That makes it we can't compete, and that throws the whole thing out.
And guys, if you're following us or watching this streaming in Facebook, you may comment there as well.
Throughout Florida, yes, mashallah, somebody, mashallah, my dear friend, Dr. Ghiath, Allah bless you, he thinks we have 50. That's a reflection of hard work you guys are doing. You guys are doing the work of 50 soldiers, mashallah.
If you start counting all our volunteers and hopefully the 100 people on this call, we can get a lot closer to having that much manpower.
And that's ultimately, I think, at the end of this call, we're going to talk about how you can actually be plugged into our volunteer program. You can become an amplifier. So when there's calls to action, you guys can make it happen and we can show the collective strength of our community.
And we've got 100, mashallah. Okay. I wish.
So now we're definitely getting 100 volunteers out of these calls, right? That's happening now. You guys are all committing. Those of you who are commenting, we're taking names and you're all becoming official volunteers now.
Okay, final question for you in a couple of words. I mean, this is a, you guys get to cheat because we just shared it, but in a couple of words, what is it that CAIR Florida does? What do you think it is right now? And then we'll kind of come back at the end of the call and see if that has any ideas have changed. Or what did you think that CAIR Florida did prior to joining the call?
Now we're required to write a narrative. We get slower responses.
Protect our civil rights, mashallah, absolutely.
Great.
Empower justice, empower, educate, protect, prevent. I like this crowd, mashallah.
Thank
Fantastic.
you, fellow attorney.
This is great. Thank you, guys. To increase the understanding of Islam, protect our civil rights. So yes, I let you guys cheat, but alhamdulillah, that's great to hear. And hopefully it's going to really resonate the more that you guys hear on the presentation. So with that, without further ado, I'm actually going to welcome our North Florida coordinator, Ms. Hiba Rahim, to go ahead and share with you guys a little more background about CAIR Florida. So if you allow me to bring on Hiba. Hiba, are you with us? And I will go ahead and reshare my presentation.
And while you're about to start, Mujib, Dr. Shaib, may Allah bless you for your support. He mentioned 6 foot distance, and that's the amazing thing. You're looking right now, how many offices does CAIR Florida have? You see how many offices. We've been positioned to work remotely. So there was literally no loss of work from the day the lockdown happened to before to after. Things were smooth because we already had a statewide remote system. So alhamdulillah, Hiba, Rania, Wilfredo, Tanya, Laura, the countless, the 24 and plus staff members at CAIR Florida were able to continue to serve uninterrupted. And that's all made possible by your support, who built us this infrastructure through your generous donations. Jazakallah khairan. And one last comment, I know us lawyers, we talk too much, but to enable us to continue this work, quick plug, you can see at the bottom line, you can text CAIR FL to the number there, 26989, or you can call the number on the screen or visit cairflorida.org to make your donation to help us keep doing this work that we're going to do throughout the year. So if you get inspired during this call, do what you can, inshallah, so we can keep up the effort. And with that, I pass the floor back.
Thank you, Hassan. So Hiba, if you're with us, go ahead.
Make sure you unmute your phone too.
Yes, make sure you're not muted.
Hiba's still muted, I can see.
Okay, let me actually go ahead and mute her.
And there's no webinars that exist during COVID-19 without some type of technical difficulties. So bear with us as we bring all our CAIR family into this call.
Now, while on, just a quick question for the team. You know, you mentioned in the beginning, before some of our most recent friends joined us, how often are we doing these digital programs? Are these consistent programs? When can people join? So please, if you want to share that with them.
All right, guys, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
One day we'll reach a point where we don't ask that question. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Inshallah. Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wassalam ala Rasulillah. It's very much an honor to be here joining our CAIR Florida directors and all our esteemed guests today. My name is Hiba Rahim. I am the North Florida Regional Coordinator for CAIR Florida, and I'll go through the presentation and go through the slides to tell you a little bit more about us and what we do. So our offices, as Brother Hassan mentioned, we have 5 offices, alhamdulillah, in Tampa, South Florida, Central Florida, Northwest Florida, and Southwest Florida. And we have, alhamdulillah, a total, Rania asked a question. If you want to move on with the slides, Rania asked a question about our staff members. We have a total of 24 staff members, which is less than 100 and less than 50, but it does make us one of CAIR's largest states, alhamdulillah. And we have a really diverse team. 12 people in Tampa. In Orlando, we have 6. South Florida has 4. North Florida and Southwest Florida has just 1 person each, but alhamdulillah, it does not slow down our work and our momentum. And we have 8 attorneys on the CAIR Florida team, which is a blessing. And, you know, really is just a powerhouse of individuals working forward with your support, alhamdulillah. We're really blessed to have our 4 really strong directors who you've met on the call, Hassan Shibli, Tanya Clevenger, Wilfredo Ruiz, and Rania El-Jindi, who are all, again, pushing forward with the vision and mission. And their leadership has really been phenomenal in directing the CAIR Florida staff and making just huge waves across the state of Florida. Interestingly, you know, we have notable cases. Every year we come forward and we try to make sure that the community knows what their funding is going toward, what your donation is going toward. So we have cases that we like to highlight, but most importantly for today's call is the message that you can join us in our fight for justice. You can join us financially through financial support. You can join us in your personal capacity as well, and we'll talk about that as well. So, you know, CAIR Florida Advocates is a call for people to support us in their financial abilities, but also in their human capabilities, in their voice, in their mentally and in every way possible, just to give us the support that we need. So talking a little bit about some cases that we want to review.
And before we jump into cases real quick, I mean, if we go back to that screen of how many staff we have, if you look back, this is a huge reflection of the commitment of the Muslim community to defending our deen. Because when I remember 10 years ago, there was literally 0 attorneys. And then myself barely just, you know, had moved down, studied for the bar. And then a few months later brought on Tanya, who got licensed. Me and her both got licensed while working for CAIR Florida. And now, alhamdulillah, we have lawyers with white hair, like our brother Wilfredo, who was with us in South Florida at the time. And mashallah, Bob and Norma, who have practiced law for years. Taj as well, Omar. So this is a huge thing. And when I visit many Muslim communities, they don't have that. So you know that when a Muslim is oppressed, you have a team of 8 attorneys ready on the front lines to defend our faith. This is a huge, huge reflection of the commitment of the Muslim community in Florida in defending our rights. And it's why they take us seriously. It's why we don't have to sue as much now, because they know we have a team of lawyers ready to sue if they don't listen to our demands. And it's been phenomenal. So I just want to thank our donors for making that a reality.
And another thing worthy of note here is that, because Florida is actually really big, it's very narrow, but it's very, just stretched out. In Florida, where I am in Panama City in the Panhandle, that's about a 10-hour drive to Miami. And so having people situated very strategically across the state has been so incredibly powerful in that when we have a case, whether it's with the police department or superintendent's office or prisoners' rights, within 2 or 3 hours of radius, we can have a person there within a day. Like within 2 or 3 hours, we have somebody mobilized and on site and ready to have that conversation that's necessary. So alhamdulillah, that's how we've been so incredibly successful, bifadlillah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with the blessing and permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to create the change and have the impact that we do.
And real quick, my last interruption for now until I want to welcome Dr. Khalila Ali, one of CAIR Florida's clients. She was the former wife of the boxing legend Muhammad Ali, and we've been very proud to work with her, and we appreciate her standing with us. And she's just been an amazing client, an amazing community leader that we've been blessed to work with. And that's the amazing thing. You guys are helping us defend those that have done so much for our community over the years.
Yes. Thank you. So going back to, the impact that we've had, some of the more significant cases that we've really highlighted more recently is that CAIR Florida challenged the federal terror watch list, which was ruled unconstitutional. Brother Hassan played a very direct role in that. And alhamdulillah, that was a huge victory for every single Muslim, whether you were on that watch list, whether you know somebody that was on that watch list, or whether you were unimpacted as of yet. We are all collectively as an ummah impacted by the unconstitutionality of these types of laws. And so it was really a huge victory that took years to overturn, but alhamdulillah, through constant struggle and work and relentless perseverance, alhamdulillah, that was able to be ruled unconstitutional. And also CAIR Florida, fought against a gun shop owner who declared his store a Muslim-free zone and was able to, change those policies and get that reversed. In terms of people, we have people individuals, right, who are impacted. And one thing that I would say is that there are individuals who are donors who understand that, you don't have to be directly impacted to know that that there are cases that impact the Muslim community. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses us and empowers us with financial means or even protection, then it becomes incumbent upon each and every one of us to give from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, to give to institutions and organizations like CAIR Florida, who then can turn around and defend others. So alhamdulillah, we were able to support and defend Sister Hakima, who returned a pizza from Domino's that she said wasn't made the way she wanted it. And the store manager made a false report saying that she threatened to blow up the store. Imagine that. Imagine that conversation could have happened to any one of us. I'm sure that every single one of us or our family members has at one point called customer service and said, hey, this did not meet my expectations. And then for that to come back at you in such a horrific way with such horrible false accusations that really completely could change the trajectory of your life, without an organization like CAIR Florida stepping up and defending her and finding resolve in that case. CAIR Florida fought for a Muslim taxi driver who was fired for taking a prayer break. That's why we do our Know Your Rights trainings, because it's important for every single Muslim community member, whether you're an employee or a student or a boss. Every single one of us should know our rights while traveling as immigrants in this country, as citizens in this country, as students in this country. So when you know your right, you know that something wrong has happened. There's been an egregious attack on my civil liberties. I know to call CAIR Florida, who will step up for me. And I have the confidence that those attorneys and the power that CAIR Florida has with these institutions will be able to retrieve justice for me, inshallah. And that's what we've been doing.
On the last screen, sorry, we spoke about the Muslim watch list case. This case cannot be overemphasized. And in fact, it was a national case, and I heard some of our donors, subhanAllah, they said, oh, there's just a CAIR national case, not Florida. Actually, CAIR Florida did much of the groundwork in identifying the issues, recruiting the clients, and setting up a real airtight legal argument for why what the government was doing is wrong. And this is something that affects all of us. Virtually all of us have either been stopped when we travel or we know somebody that's been stopped when they travel, it's because of the watch list that the Muslim community is on. In Florida, we trained 5,000 police officers that they're going to talk about in a little bit. And when we trained the officers, we asked them, how many of you have pulled somebody on a terrorist watch list? And all the officers raised their hand. And I asked them, did you catch any real criminals or terrorists? They said, no, it's a horrible list. They themselves tell us it's a horrible list. And it's basically just innocent Muslims on that list. And we know it's wrong. We know it's ineffective. For 15 years, we've been fighting it. And it took 15 years of fighting to finally get the list ruled unconstitutional. And now we're still fighting to put an end to it. These are long-term fights. And I know it's easy to give and to support and to be involved and to volunteer when there's something right then and there and happening. But we know our deen emphasizes istiqamah, consistency. You need to be consistently strong fighting these cases that we see. It's not just about Hakima on the next slide, because alhamdulillah, when she faced that discrimination and we made the company that harassed her, that hurt her, that got her arrested, when we made them pay for it, you better bet they learned a powerful lesson not to bother any other Muslim in the future. So there's so many other cases you don't hear about because we were successful with this case, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, that's true. And also there are so many cases. I mean, these are major cases that we like to highlight, but every day our legal team gets intake after intake after intake of individuals who call with questions, with issues of discrimination, with grievances of some sort. And these are constant efforts that CAIR Florida puts forward. And I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects you and your family so that you never have to face any incident of discrimination. But if you do, you know who to call. And if you don't, then one way to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is by donating so that we can continue to support others who are going through trials and tribulations. Tariq Abu Khadir was a US citizen who was beaten and falsely imprisoned by Israeli police officers. And that assault was caught on camera. And alhamdulillah, you know, it's important to note that US citizens don't always have their rights recognized abroad, but any issues bringing you home or helping to bring you home, you know, is something that you can reach out to CAIR Florida to do. And we're here to help. And CAIR Florida did intervene and was able to bring him back to the US by putting immense pressure on our government and really highlighting it in the media and making sure that it was something that, you know, got done as soon as possible. So alhamdulillah, with CAIR Florida's support and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's permission, we were able to bring him back home. Finally, one of the big issues that I personally am involved in, and again, our whole team, of course, is involved in, is prisoners' rights. We recently, last year, officially launched our Muslim Inmates Advocacy Program, although it's something we've been doing for a long time. But, you know, one case that really highlighted our prisoners' rights work was Imam Abu Toba's work, where Imam Abu Toba was wrongfully imprisoned for 4 years, awaiting trial. And what he was accused of was having Islamic books. Brothers and sisters, these are books that many of us may have, I mean, really benign Islamic books in your home. And they tried to charge him with terrorism. And CAIR Florida went to court and fought for the release of Imam Abu Toba and was successful at having him, you know, when Hassan visited him, he saw him chained and shackled with his flesh bleeding because of the tightness of the chains and because of how long he was chained and shackled, unable to see sunlight, you know, just really locked up, astaghfirullah al-azim, like in ways that you would never imagine. Just the torture and the abuse was just horrendous. And alhamdulillah, Hassan was able to get involved and CAIR Florida was able to go to court, fight for his release, and mashallah, now he's out and back reunited with his family. You know, CAIR Florida also sued the Miami-Dade County because their corrections department was denying Muslim inmates meals that adhere to their religious dietary needs. So, you know, halal food, kosher food, all of these issues are really important. And, you know, with the MIA work, the Muslim Inmates Advocacy work that I do, we have brothers on the outside, Muslim brothers in our community, who are very strict adherents to halal food diets, or who take great or immense amount of pride with the beard that they wear, because that's an indication of their religiosity, of their application of the sunnah, of their love for Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then in the prisons, you have a lack of understanding or respect for these very important concepts of identity and religious affiliation. And so you have brothers who are not given halal food or kosher options. You have brothers whose beards are forcefully removed. You have sisters whose hijabs are being removed during their booking photos or at other times. And now they know that they can reach out to CAIR Florida, that they can rely on us for support, that even if these are individuals who are socially distant, who are geographically distant from the rest of the community, that we will step up and that they are our Muslim brothers and sisters, and that we will defend them and fight for their right to practice Islam freely, whether they're inside or outside, alhamdulillah. And one of the big victories that we've got, and it's just a small thing, but you know, subhanAllah, one of the things that we associate every day when we fast during Ramadan, one of the things that we associate or look forward to is like that tamr, that sunnah, the application of the sunnah, Allahumma laka sumtu wa ala rizqika aftart. You know, you just say this dua and you, while you're opening up the tamr, and you know that Muslims around the world are globally engaging in the practice of the sunnah. But recently dates were not allowed to be donated to the prisons anymore. And they were not accepted as a sacramental food. And with conversations that CAIR Florida had with the top level officials of the Department of Corrections, they accepted dates as a sacramental food. And now we're collecting date donations and delivering them to the prisons. Or even just basic grievances that you have. You have individuals who, you know, or institutions who are having inmates fast and giving them suhoor at the wrong time, or iftar at the wrong time, or following a wrong prayer schedule. So this year CAIR Florida sent a Ramadan memo to complement the Department of Corrections Ramadan memo to every single Department of Corrections in the state of Florida, every single county jail, and every single Bureau of Prisons, letting them know that these are our common grievances, and especially with the COVID situation, letting them know that we may not physically be able to visit and see what's happening, but here are the grievances we've had in the past. Here's how to rectify it. Let's be proactive and not repeating the same mistakes. So
that's a huge thing, Hiba, if I may interrupt real quick. And I applaud you for your leadership in making that happen, because what Hiba discovered, and this is the beauty of having people full-time committed to defending civil rights, because otherwise, may Allah bless you all, we don't have the time to examine each and every prison as volunteers. But because we have staff that are paid to do this, alhamdulillah, we can do this proficiently. And what we discovered was some Muslim inmates were not being allowed to eat and being given water and food to eat until after dawn, but before sunrise. We know our fasting begins at dawn, not at sunrise. So can you imagine the torture of being a Muslim prisoner and you're given water and food to eat after dawn, after Fajr comes in and before sunrise, and you know you can't eat it because the prisoners, the prison leadership didn't understand the deen. So we were able to educate them and now proactively reach out to make sure that this is no longer a problem. So imagine the reward you're getting through that. Secondly, I want to emphasize that in the Miami-Dade lawsuit, where we were successful in suing Miami-Dade for not providing halal food, that was just one suit we had to do. Now we don't, inshallah, have to do more lawsuits, because what I do is every prison I go, I say, look, this is what we had to do to Miami. We sued them and we were successful. We don't want to sue you. Let's work together. And they're very appreciative that we don't have to sue them now, because we already won the lawsuit. So we can set that precedent. We can establish that precedent throughout the rest of the country. I want to take a quick second to really show some appreciation to Ione Townsend. She's actually the chair of the Hillsborough County Democratic Party, who donated on Facebook while watching this. So even our friends and our allies who may not be practicing the Islamic faith, but they stand in solidarity, respecting CAIR Florida's efforts to defend justice for all. You know, you'll hear later in this presentation that 25% of our clients are not Muslim, because we believe in standing for mercy for all humanity. Secondly, this is very, very important. In the chat, our civil rights director, who's been promoted to our operations director, Tanya Clevenger, she gave you the number to call and to text when you need legal help. When you face discrimination, when you know somebody's being oppressed because of their religion, because of their race, this is the number to call. A lot of times, you know how we work, because we're a very sociable community. People try to always call me, but wallah, I can't keep up with my phone if everybody wants to call me if it's a non-emergency. We're a team, we're not a one-man show. So please save that number, save it in your phone, share it with your friends. If anybody faces injustice because they're Muslim, call 833-CAIR-FLA. Again, that's 833-CAIR-FLA, or just text. That's the best way. Text our hotline, 813-531-7767. It's in the group chat. Take those numbers down, save them. And this is the first action item you can do. Maybe the second. The first one is donating, but the second action item, share this number with everybody in your network. Say, if you face injustice because you're Muslim or because of your race or because of your religion, text CAIR Florida. Inshallah, we'll do our best to help you. And then send us feedback. We're not perfect. We're always growing, but we can only grow when you work with us. And this is an opportunity in the chat box or to message us and give us your feedback on how we can continue to serve better. Sorry, Hiba, the floor is yours again.
Thank you, Hamad. All right, then the last slide, the last thing that I'm going to talk to is the trainings, the really, really impactful and such crucial trainings that CAIR Florida delivers with law enforcement, with school officials and administration, employee or Know Your Rights series. There was a case recently where a USF student was pulled over for a traffic ticket and she had her hijab removed during that arrest. And a lot of times things like this happen, brothers and sisters, because of a lack of knowledge, because the officers don't understand what hijab is or what it represents to a Muslim woman, or even the constitutional rights that individuals have to practice and when and where you can and can't remove these things. And so we discovered, CAIR Florida discovered that there are professional organizations like law enforcement agencies who are paying for training, what they call professional development training, from Islamophobes. You have Islamophobic agencies and individuals who are offering Muslim, quote unquote, Muslim or experts on Islam. They're not experts on Islam. They're Islamophobes who are spewing hate and spreading false information. And until we did the research and discovered this, we brought it to the attention of law enforcement agencies. We brought it to the attention of school trainings. And now, alhamdulillah, guess who's doing these trainings? CAIR Florida and CAIR Florida staff is out mobilized across the state, from Northwest Florida down to the southern tip of Florida. We're meeting with law enforcement agencies. We've trained over 5,000 police officers in Hillsborough County alone. In the Panhandle, we've had our own trainings. In South Florida, in Southwest Florida, they've had their own trainings. Recently in Tallahassee, alhamdulillah, there were over 80 school officials who are responsible. These are assistant principals of curriculum who are responsible for developing the curriculum for Leon County schools. Over 80 assistant principals of curriculum got together to discuss and listen to a presentation that CAIR Florida gave. Alhamdulillah, I was able to give that particular presentation on Islam 101, on the constitutional rights of students, on anything that they really asked me, a big Q&A. It was a really lengthy and very in-depth conversation. And the impetus behind that presentation was an incredibly Islamophobic 9/11 presentation that was being displayed at one of the local middle schools in Tallahassee. 6th to 8th graders who were subjected to, wallahi, it was the worst presentation I've ever seen on Islam or 9/11, full of lies, full of hatred. And imagine your middle schoolers. For those of you who are parents on the call, imagine your middle schooler being a Muslim in a public school with everyone looking at you and blaming you and criticizing you. No wonder when we went back and researched, we found that we'd had quite a few incidents of bullying Muslim students at that school. Well, of course, you have every single 7th and 8th grader at a middle school subject to such an Islamophobic presentation. Yet no wonder you're going to have students say to their Muslim peers, make very Islamophobic or hate-related comments. So alhamdulillah, we were able to have those conversations, get the presentation pulled, have the conversation with the superintendent's office, and then establish a series of training, not just one. That was the beginning of a series of trainings, first with the assistant principals of curriculum, and then with all teachers who wanted to sign up for this training. And now we've been delayed by COVID, but don't think, brothers and sisters, that the work has stopped. We're now navigating new ways. I've reached out to different administrators who asked me to do presentations and offered to them to continue the presentations now on webinars and Zoom. We don't need to stop because things have slowed down. Like, we're moving forward, alhamdulillah, and we're asking you to continue moving forward with your support so that we can continue the work, even if it's in unique times and in unique ways. CAIR Florida staff, alhamdulillah, also, with regards to employee training, we had a training for the Pinellas Human Rights Office for annual housing rights conference. This is, of course, people involved in providing housing and providing training on interfaith issues and how to interact with different individuals and different backgrounds. So alhamdulillah, that was, a major success. I don't remember how many people were trained, but I know it was like a really big number of individuals trained. Anybody, feel free to jump in if you have any numbers.
Thank you, Hiba. Hiba, thank you for providing that wonderful overview of all of the different, areas of our work. And Hiba is honestly one of the best parts of having an incredible team. Everyone on the staff, mashallah, has different talents, and it is really exciting for me to have joined such an incredible staff, mashallah. I want to emphasize again what Hiba has said, that the trainings and the work have not stopped. So as I mentioned previously, we have the Wednesday social hour programs, and we've been bringing guest speakers onto that. So we're going to put the link into the chat box so that you guys know how to join us every Wednesday and every Sunday as well. So the timings will be the same, and the links to join will always be the same each week. So Sunday evenings, if there's a training that you guys would like us to see, or if there's something that your community needs, please reach out to us. That's why we're here. I have to admit that even when I was joining CAIR, I didn't know a lot about this undercover, not undercover. None of us Muslims are undercover, for anyone listening. But I didn't know a lot about this behind the scenes work of the training. So when Tanya and the team was telling me about this, for example, they go to a human resources conference and provide a training about, not discriminating against people explicitly or implicitly. Because like Hiba said, sometimes people do this without the understanding of what they're doing. So imagine that, we're training a conference of people whose job it is to hire staffers, and every Muslim potentially that goes in for that interview and is not discriminated against, like the impact of that keeps going. So when we train conferences, housing rights conferences, so that they don't discriminate against immigrants who are trying to find housing with large families, all of that work that affects the community, alhamdulillah, but it's not always front and center, and definitely not always known by everybody. So want to also encourage you guys to give us topics that you would like to see for our Wednesday and Sunday programmings. And also a quick note, if you are calling to give, just add an A to the Florida. So it should be CAIR FLA. And we have folks standing by for anyone willing and wanting to make a donation, inshallah.
And a very important note on that, please in the chat box, write us what kind of trainings you guys want. Literally, do we need bullying trainings? Do we need traveling trainings? Do we need FBI trainings? What kind of trainings can we provide you? And remember, as they mentioned, this link, inshallah, every week we're having this Sunday training, and there's another link for the Wednesday training. You can use the same link, join us in the same way. So let's make this a regular habit. And this is why, honestly, the slow down of things in some ways is an opportunity for us, because we do provide so many trainings, but we do need this time that we're revising the trainings, we're bringing it all online for the law enforcement, for police, for academia. So we're very busy right now updating our trainings and providing it digitally. And while we're training the law enforcement and the academics and the those that are out there, we don't want to neglect training our community. So we're going to keep these classes every Sunday, inshallah. Let us know in the chat box what kind of trainings we can provide you, inshallah, what you're interested in.
Absolutely. Thank you, Hassan. So this brings us to our volunteer and internship opportunities. And I want to just take a moment and explain the CAIR Florida Advocate campaign. And where that came from is that, mashallah, some of you have guessed that we have 50 or even 100 staffers for the entire state of Florida. And unfortunately, as you've seen, that's not the case. We have a pretty modest staff of 25 spread across 5 offices throughout the state. Florida is actually one of the largest CAIR chapters in the country. We're the largest Muslim civil rights organization in the state. And so, as you know, this is not work that can be done only by 25 people. So this is work that really is done on behalf of the community, but has to be done with the community. So the idea behind the CAIR Florida Advocates is really to develop and invest in community leaders and participants that can join CAIR on the front lines of promoting justice. So that looks different for every person. There's flexibility in how to be a CAIR Florida advocate, but the idea is that you have an official position as a CAIR Florida advocate with the resources, with the investment, with the support, so that if you're going into a school board meeting, you go in as a CAIR Florida advocate, and all of a sudden, you have that legitimacy, you have that backing of a full organization. So with that, we're inviting everyone on the call to be a CAIR Florida advocate and to join us in this mission and the work that we're doing. One thing is that we cannot stress enough how important it is for us to be able to follow up with you. So we're going to go ahead and put in the chat right now a link to a Google form so that we can, as we're discussing volunteer and internship opportunities and what your CAIR Florida advocate career would look like, we want to be able to follow up with you. So please make sure to fill out that Google form before you leave the call. And with that, I'm actually going to turn it over to our Civil Rights Director, Ms. Tanya Clevenger. We're going to share a little bit about each of the departments within CAIR so that as you're contemplating being a CAIR Florida advocate, you can understand where your particular interests and motivations might lie.
Very quickly, Tanya, before you start, I just do want to address a couple great comments we're getting in there in the chat section.
Absolutely.
Number one, it's being mentioned that, somebody, getting halal food may not be a big deal. Somebody having their beard shaved by force isn't a big deal. The American legal system protects an individual's personal belief as to what they find important. So as long as it's within the Sharia, whether it's Sunnah, whether it's Farad, and if it's important for an individual, then it's important for us. We don't want to draw the line of, oh, no, this is a big deal, this isn't. If a believer follows a practice that is within the Sunnah and it's being violated, well, it's actually going against the law. The Constitution doesn't say just what is farad you get to practice. It is whatever you reasonably believe that you would like to do within your faith, even if within the Christian law, within Jewish law, within Islamic law, it's not required, but it's recommended, or somebody wants to do it. If it's within the deen, then it is within their rights, and we have to stand by them, because you would be surprised how traumatic it is for somebody to go through that experience. If a Muslim inmate, for example, who's having their beard shaven, that's a very traumatic experience for them. Now, if you don't grow a beard, we respect your right. But if somebody grows their beard, we respect their right too. We protect everybody's freedom according to the law of this country. Another point, very, very important, another action item, right? So the first action item, potentially donate. Second action item was save that number for how to contact us. Third action item is please let us know what kind of trainings you would like. You can type that in the chat box. Fourth action item, make sure that you fill out the census and amplify that. And we'll talk about our amplifier network and how you can do that. Fifth action item, especially in light of COVID, it's getting dangerous to actually potentially go and vote in real life. There's a risk of exposure. We don't know how the situation will change by the election time. So it's very, very important. Everybody in Florida is registered to vote by mail. So that's another action item you do. See, leadership isn't just about yourself doing it. It's about encouraging others to do it as well. So for example, you yourself fill out the census, you yourself go online, and inshallah, our team can put the links for how to fill out the census online. Our team will also go ahead and put the link for how to register to vote by mail. You do it yourself, but then ask your friends to do it. Send it on WhatsApp, text message, ask others to do it as well, inshallah, so we can amplify each other's efforts. Jazakallah khair. Tanya, the floor is yours.
Absolutely. It's funny, we get so many of these cases every day, day in and day out, and we really do value our Constitution and the ability of all of us to practice our faith or our beliefs in a way that makes sense. And so that's really important what you said, Hassan, and I think that's the importance of also doing the interfaith work that we do and interacting and teaching people about different things. So before I kind of dive straight into the Civil Rights Department, I again want to kind of talk about everybody's role, kind of really amplify what Rania was talking about. We cannot do this work alone. A lot of our amazing efforts really have been products of volunteers coming in, sharing their professional experience with us. I really encourage everybody on this call, if you can take an hour, if you can take, time every single week to get engaged, hopefully you've learned something today that inspires you, something that you can't live with yourself if you don't take some action, right? Like to get engaged in the work that we do. So I hope that each one of you finds it or asks questions, but I have spoken to everything from doctors to students starting off in high school, and each one of you can contribute something. Just have that conversation with us. A little bit on the Civil Rights Department. So we roughly have 70 calls a month for services. That's about 1,000 people a year, because we do unfortunately have peaks of higher needs, especially like during Ramadan. Unfortunately, you heard all the work that HIP is doing proactively to get ahead. But these are times where we hear more hate crimes, more people being discriminated against when they want to take prayer breaks during the evenings, or if they want to change their schedules. And roughly that service of the cases we end up taking are valued about $2 million. And those services are in immigration cases, employment discrimination, school discrimination, prisoners' rights, housing discrimination, travel delays and watch list, hate crimes, and pretty much any way that you can imagine discrimination manifesting, those are cases that we take. And I want you to kind of, if you heard the names that I just called out, the different types of areas of law that we cover, they should sound really familiar because they mirror our programs. The reason a lot of our programs came into existence is because we learned trends through the cases we get, right? You hear about the stuff that's happening. You hear about the child who had to watch this horrible 9/11 presentation. And we make sure that we deal with discrimination holistically. We don't just take the cases into court. We find out how we get to the person who's causing the discrimination, and we create change. So a lot of these cases you hear, I listed out here, are a bunch of the cases that our programs are dedicated to because that's where we see a pattern of discrimination. So anybody who wants to get involved in the civil rights cases, you know, we have to be able to document everything that's coming in. We have to do research. We have to develop programs. Whether you want to get involved directly with the legal system or kind of help us document and research these issues, or something as simple as helping translate, fill in the database, there is a role for you in helping direct services. So hope you guys want to get involved in that. A lot of our law students stay with us actually long term. They come in, they start their career doing intakes with us, and then they continue to be our pro bono attorneys, which we greatly appreciate.
So right here, Tanya, you're saying there's room for volunteers within the legal department, people to actually get their hands dirty working civil rights cases, correct? Even if they're not necessarily lawyers?
Even if you're not lawyers, we can find a role for you. And in fact, you know, half of our team is not lawyers. So they get involved in these cases. They help with the individual clients. Sometimes just hearing a friendly voice on the other line that you can, that they feel welcome and warm when they tell their story to.
And how can somebody sign up to be a legal volunteer? Or are we going to talk about that at the end perhaps? Or what's the process?
Yeah, we're going to talk about the process at the end, definitely, but make sure that you sign up that Google form if you are interested in becoming an advocate and participating, inshallah. Speaking to the civil rights experience, I wanted to invite Ala-Eddin, who's been unmuted, to share his experience as a law clerk with us, just to give everyone the chance to hear from different staff members and different you know, experiences that they've had. So Ala-Eddin, are you with us?
Yes.
Okay, so go ahead if you want to share with us, you know, your experiences being a law clerk with CAIR Florida.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well, inshallah. Thank you for joining. From my experience, has been incredible. It's been a blessing. I'm incredibly lucky. I have the privilege to work with an incredible team that just isn't completely in love with what they're doing. So I'm helping with complaints. So people who have unfortunately been discriminated against because their gender or their religion, which happens very frequently. We dealt with a few brothers that had some unique, just at airports, their packaging for some odd reason, just things that we see, you know, name calling, slurs, happens very common. And then now with their prison system in Florida, helping with Sister Hibba, who does incredible work, and trying to help a lot of our brothers who just unfortunately unable to grow their beards, have halal meals. There's just so many situations that comes to my mind. So I'm very appreciative to do anything I can do. So I encourage everyone to please donate. I see the work personally. I see how much everyone, the whole team works so hard. So I can assure you 10 times that your money goes to incredible use. So thank you.
Thank you, Ala-Eddin. And so we've mentioned already a few things as far as, you know, getting your census done, voter registration. We do have a legislative and government affairs department as well, led by our coordinator, Norma Henning. And so obviously there's no need for us to kind of emphasize to you all the importance of 2020 and the election year. You know, this is something that is so critical because a lot of us underestimate how important our local elections are, even, or any election election for that matter. So CAIR Florida is involved in, setting up online voter registration drives, getting people to vote by mail, providing some of the trainings. We actually have a training coming up April 26th, I believe, which is one of our Sunday sessions. And we have the League of Women Voters as partners, and we have county officials coming in to tell you guys about, what the process is and everything that you need to know. We have a new article, Auntie Najwa's Unsolicited Advice, that goes out bi-weekly, and you'll learn a little bit about government affairs and legislative affairs as well. But this is also the department where we interact with our elected officials. Obviously, that's very important. If we're trying to help someone come into the country who's having an issue, sometimes a letter of support from your elected official, or if a masjid is having trouble, having those relationships really helps, and we've seen that in the past. And so this is a department that you would be working under. And I want to encourage you guys to keep the questions coming, the comments definitely, and any questions about specific departments, please go ahead and get those to us as well. And communication, so Brother Wilfredo, our communications director, I'm going to hand it over to him, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum. How are you doing, everybody? Thank you, Rania. Rania is our newest director, and she has really taken a big lead in outreaching to our community statewide. And we congratulate her for that, and much needed help.
Thank you, Wilfredo.
And also, Tanya has been recently promoted to be our operations director. So we have a very solid team of working throughout the state. And like Hassan said in the beginning, in the introduction, we have not stopped. Fortunately, we were prepared to work from a remote environment. And we, years ago, implemented virtual offices. So what we did is just open our laptops, and we were ready to work from day one uninterrupted. Alhamdulillah for that. But nothing of this is possible without your help. Not only financial help, but also as this that we are doing now, trying to recruit some advocates to be our voice, to be hands-on with the with our organization behind them in facing issues in the community, meeting with elected officials, or meeting with community leaders on our behalf. That's what we're trying to recruit people to assume a very proactive role in our organization, and also that many of you may use in internships or as volunteers or as jobs, as we post them regularly. So stay close to our team. Whatever you think you can do, you will do. We have a communications department that is constantly engaging with national and international media outlets. We need help in the production of media. So if you have any particular tools to know how to edit videos, for example, or if you are good in editing podcasts, we do need some technical help in the communications as well. Tools to know how to edit videos, for example, or if you are good in editing podcasts, we do need some technical help in the communications as well.
Thank you, Brother Wilfredo. I appreciate that. So we really mean it when we say that there's something for everyone. There's something for those creative folks out there. There's something for the people like me who are not creative at all. But so you've seen already 3 of our main departments. So then last, but certainly not least, and if my other directors will excuse me, as I say, the funnest and one of our largest departments, which is programs and outreach.
Here goes your competitive nature again, Miss Rania. You're letting it show.
I'm originally from New York, for anyone who doesn't know, and so I can't help it. It comes out sometimes. But the programs and outreach department, it's honestly where the majority of our interaction with the community comes into place. So a lot of people hear about CAIR's legal work, but all of that work as far as the prevention piece, the education piece, the trainings that we spoke about, that's all coming from programs and outreach, and the full staff plays a role in that. This is what we're talking about when we say our Know Your Rights. This is what we're talking about when you say Islam 101 workshops. This are all of our events, right? Any type of training that we're putting on online work, the Ramadan programs. So this is a huge aspect of CAIR Florida's work. It's how we interact with you all. It's how we interact with the Muslim American community, but also with all of our partners and our allies. And so this is great for creative people and folks who are very, wanting to meet other people and extroverts, and there's definitely something that we can do. No 2 days are the same in the Programs and Outreach Department, which is excellent. And before I hand it over to our staffer to kind of just go through some examples and some samples of our events, I wanted to speak about one Programs and Outreach activity in particular. And I also want to let you guys know that we're at the tail end. So we're just going to show you some of our past events, and then we're going to be wrapping up, inshallah. So really appreciate your time this evening. Community outreach, just to give you a full idea of the full array of everything that we do. It could be a banquet for, hundreds of people where we're raising for our annual budget, but it could also be something as simple as tabling. And I wanted to take a moment and just, kind of emphasize the importance of these small activities because people may not understand. Tabling is when exactly what it sounds like, right? It's when we go to masjids on Fridays and we go to partner events and we go to community events and we set up a CAIR Florida table with all of our resources and materials, and we have staff there. The importance of tabling is that it solidifies for people and a recognition that CAIR is in the community, right? It's a very visible act that we do. And we've actually had people come to us and say that, I remember during this emergency, CAIR had a table there. I remember seeing you guys at that event. So it's really important. We got some intakes, people coming to the CAIR table to let us know, hey, we have an intake, but we didn't really know how to reach out. So even something as simple as that, the impact of it is very great. And this is just a sample that something that anyone can do, right? If you have a Friday off, if you have an event that you think CAIR should be at, you can reach out. Part of being an advocate is not just taking things on yourself, but plugging our team in where we need to be. So you guys are out there, what events are going on, where CAIR should be participating, setting up a meeting with your school board, setting up a meeting with a partner organization that you work with. So all of these things are aspects that you can be involved in, inshallah. Unfortunately, the pina colada and the CAIR Bear do not always come included in tabling, but after Corona pandemic is over, we invite you guys to definitely visit one of our offices, grab a CAIR Bear, grab some swag as you join us as CAIR Florida advocates. So I'm going to pass it on to Ms. Lara Abu Ghanem, and she's going to share about some of our CAIR. Oh, what happened? Something happened. Do you guys see my screen still?
Nope, your screen has gone.
Okay, let me go ahead and reactivate. And in the meantime, if anyone wanted to share about some of the events that we have.
Copy and paste, guys, in the chat, you'll see the link, and it's a really great form. If you copy and paste the Google Docs link, you can fill it out and you can put what area you want to volunteer in, what your skill sets are, so we can plug you into our system. And please share this with your youth. You'd be surprised to learn the majority of our legal interns, for example, and legal volunteers are not even members of the Muslim community, but they just love the work we do so much that they're committing a whole semester, if not more, to work with us in our legal department. So it's for whether you want to be involved in legal, media, government affairs, you can fill out that form, inshallah, and encourage your youth to do it, your high schools, older high school students, your college age students, children, have them fill it out. You yourself fill it out too. You may have a role to play, and let us know, what resources we have within our community that we can maximize in service of our community. It's indeed a great opportunity to work together for these things.
Absolutely. And with that, I'm going to introduce another staffer, Laura Abu Ghanem, to take you through some CAIR Florida past events. Thank you, Laura.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Laura Abu Ghanem. I am the executive assistant with CAIR Florida. I've actually had quite the transition with this organization. I began as an intern in 2017, I believe. And then following that internship, I continued volunteering with different events, with different programs. Then I got hired on as a law clerk and then transitioned into the executive assistant. So alhamdulillah, I've really appreciated the opportunities I've had here at CAIR Florida. and I hope to continue on with them. So with CAIR Florida, we have events year round. Every office tends to have something going on. We're usually putting on or attending an event somewhere in Florida, some staff members there. Even now, during this pandemic, you see that we're hosting these events twice a week, alhamdulillah, to keep connected with our community. The last major events we put on were our annual banquets, and as much work that goes into them and how tiring the organizing can get, they're still my favorite part of the year, alhamdulillah. Even as a volunteer, I was always really excited to go and attend these events and engage with the staff and the community. So that's a volunteer opportunity if you'd like to join that. The staff tends to all get together from all their corners of the state. The community comes out. It's nice to hear from the community members how CAIR has impacted them, whether it's legal representation or advocating for them in some way, or even just giving them the opportunity to volunteer and give back to the community. We've had amazing keynote speakers, like we've had Ambassador Abdullah Shabazz, who's the eldest daughter of Malcolm X. We've had, and that was in Orlando. 1 year in Tampa, we had Imam Omar Suleiman. And this past year in South Florida, we actually had Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, which was amazing. Even the volunteers, they really enjoyed meeting her and spending time and listening to her. But despite the protests that were going on down the street from our event. However, we do have a positive story coming out of protesting Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. So I'll let Hassan tell that story about Lexi, if you would like.
Sure. So very quickly, and I just want to emphasize one thing. Just because we've invited people to be our speakers, it doesn't mean we agree with everything they do or have said. In fact, probably for many of our speakers, I've personally spent a lot of time in discussion with them, pushing them to change certain positions, and we disagree on a lot of the issues. So it's a very important, and subhanAllah, I've realized this within our community. Sometimes shaitan really makes an excuse for us not to be involved, not to do the work that needs to be done. And a lot of times, I'm having conversations with friends, with donors, with supporters of CAIR Florida, who I haven't seen in a couple of years. And they will point out to one thing we might have done a year, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, that I might have done, or a staff member may have done or said that may have been right, may have been a mistake. But even if it was a mistake, CAIR Florida's work is so much greater than that. We make thousands of decisions every single year. And even if 99% of our decisions are right, it's important to recognize there's always a margin of error, but we have to work together. This is your organization. We can't afford to turn our backs against the front line of defense of Islam and Muslims and civil rights just because we disagree with a speaker they invited, or we disagree with a position. Let us know your feedback. We will grow, we will learn, we will change. Sometimes we will disagree, but that shouldn't mean that we don't stand with CAIR Florida as we fight for Muslim prisoners, as we fight for Muslims that are harassed while traveling. That's the focus of our work. So I do want to emphasize that. But the story of Lexi is a powerful story, because we met her when she was outside protesting the Muslim community with anti-Muslim signs. And I remember our dean teaches us to be people of mercy, people of guidance. So alhamdulillah, we went out and spoke with Lexi and the protesters that were protesting that, listen, we all have one creator, and he commands us to treat each other with compassion, with mercy, with justice. The next thing I know, and subhanAllah, they became friendly by the time I was done chatting with them. And then a few days later, I see somebody viciously defending us online. Who's this person? It was Lexi, who was protesting Islam a few days earlier. So she went from protesting the Muslim community to being a big defender of the Muslim community. Then for a couple of years in a row, attending all of our events, attending our banquets. And then earlier this year, surprised us by messaging us that she wants to take her shahada, and she came and mashallah joined our faith. So you see the power we have to change hearts just by standing strong with principles and by engaging and being the best that we can be. May Allah accept from us.
Also, Hassan, if you don't mind speaking about the New American Muslim Survey, since you held this awesome event at your house, and going over exactly what it entails.
Yeah, data is very, very important. I was speaking, we had a conference call, 2 important conference calls this past week. One with a senior former member of the White House West Wing, another with one of the top reporters for CNN. A reporter for CNN who had access to the White House and the State Department and is incredibly well connected with the with media and politics. I mean, this is, you know, top line when it comes to the media and top line when it comes to politics. So somebody who worked in the West Wing of the White House and somebody who worked for CNN covering the White House and the State Department. And the amazing thing, one of them is Muslim, one of them is not, but both of them actually want to work with CAIR Florida. And the reason they want to work with CAIR Florida is they see the powerful impact we've had across the country. And even though I'll be real with you, we cannot afford either of them if we had to pay them what they were getting at the White House or what they're getting at CNN. But they don't care about that because they care about having an impact. But one of the points they emphasized was the importance of data. You know, through data, we can make arguments about how policies and laws and positions are impacting our nation, are impacting our liberty, are impacting our freedom, our health, our safety. So alhamdulillah, we partnered with several major organizations, and alhamdulillah, we encourage them to spending tens of thousands of dollars into studies about how Islam and Muslims are viewed in Florida, in Orlando, in Tampa, and we're then able to take that data and share it with those in a position of influence to show how their policies are either helping or hurting. We can also use this data to gain more funding to fight on these issues. So that's a great report. If you're interested in the New American Muslim Survey and the results of that, we're happy to share it. But it gives us the fuel and the evidence we need when we're advocating on behalf of our community to show how Islamophobia hurts all of us as Americans.
Thank you, Hassan. And I just want to point out that, you know, when we're talking about the advocacy, right, or the representation, back to that Appear campaign, these are the things that we're doing. You know, who better to speak on behalf of Muslims than Muslims? You know, when they're paying Islamophobes to come teach them about Muslims, you know, CAIR Florida and all of our advocates are saying that, no, if you want to learn about American Muslims, then come talk to us, and we own that narrative, and we're going to take, you know, collective responsibility over what is pushed out into the wider public. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Hassan and Lara. And Lara, do you want to just take us through the last couple of events?
Sure, absolutely. So whenever major issues arise, like for instance, the Muslim ban, you can be sure to see CAIR Florida out there on the front line. Either we're putting on some event like this community discussion, or we're protesting to challenge it, whatever the issue is. We also regularly join together with ally organizations for events and matters. Like here, we had some staff members attend the Run for Refugee in Tampa. We had South Florida staff at the Immigration Detention Center rallies. We had Hassan as the keynote speaker at St. Pete's MLK service, and we had Sister Hiba from North Florida being our CAIR representation at the Florida Muslim Capital Days. So those tend to be great events that you can go out and support CAIR Florida, be an advocate with CAIR Florida if you're interested in doing that. Feel free to fill out that form and join us, inshallah, and I will give it back to Rania. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Appreciate that. So we're going to wrap up, inshallah. Basically, you know, what the takeaway is that there is something for everybody. We want to design an experience for you based on your skills and your talents. You do have them, your skills and your talents, and also your motivations and the interest areas. So now you know all about our departments, all about our work, what's interesting to you, and we'll design an experience around that. We have event management, we have grant writing and research. We currently have a professional level advocate, Raja. She's a USF professor, and she's actually been helping us to professionalize all of our presentations and trainings. So we have from young professionals to students to professionals, we have something for everyone. Translating, we got a lot of translating requests that we can't always keep up with. So whatever you're able to do, you know, we want to include you for sure. So my question to you, you know, are you ready to be a CAIR Florida advocate? Are you ready to appear with CAIR, for CAIR, alongside CAIR? So before, you know, we give you some action items to kind of take away, I actually want to go ahead and launch a Zoom poll. This is our first time, disclaimer, doing a Zoom poll, so let's see how it works. But we have a few questions for you guys. It's only 3-question poll, so let's go ahead and launch it. So hopefully you guys see the poll, right?
Yep, it's up.
So the first question for those who are joining us via Facebook Live is, what aspect of Appear campaign most deeply resonates with you? Is it the advocate, the prevent, protect, empower, activate, represent, or all of it? So we have some responses coming in. There's we're going to close the poll soon.
Only 3 questions, guys. You got this. Let's do it.
I have a warning that I do, or a threat that I make to the entire team, that if we don't start participating, we make the meetings go on longer. I don't know how well that works for Zoom, but I always want to try it.
Well, there's no lock feature. I mean, maybe there is.
I try to figure that one out.
But yes, okay. So it looks like a lot of folks, 61% are saying all of it, which is excellent. For me, I think a lot about that education piece. So a lot about that prevention through education means a lot to me. That's something that I enjoy personally. Did you learn something new about CAIR Florida today? Yes, an overwhelming 78% of you did. 22% say that no, you're CAIR Florida experts, alhamdulillah. So hopefully that's just not just our staff.
Too, alhamdulillah.
Yes, alhamdulillah. And finally, do you have at least one action that you're committed to taking today to promote justice as a community advocate? And overwhelmingly, that is absolutely. And you have at least 5. So at least 5. That takes us to what I wanted to end the presentation with, actually. So let me go ahead and reshare the presentation. Because one of the things is that, you know, people always ask, what is the action item, right? So there's a few action items, like what can you take away from this call? First of all, please fill out the Google form before you leave. If we were in person, you know, we would lock the door and not let anyone out, but that's not an option today. So please make sure to fill out the Google form so that we can follow up with you, inshallah. And then, you know, consider yourself a CAIR Florida advocate. Really consider yourself empowered. Reach out to us for the resources that you need. Please connect with us. We're here to serve you. We're here to serve alongside you, with you. So, you know, you're officially CAIR Florida advocates, and we look forward to having you as part of the team. Some contact information, you go ahead and take a screenshot. This is also on our website. So any region that you need, feel free to get in touch with our coordinators, myself, the directors, anyone from the staff. And then finally, 5 actions to take right now. So we did the first one, which is fill out the Google form. Once you fill out the Google form, you'll receive a follow-up email with us, which will detail all of the steps that you need to know and any information that you're looking for. Share with your friends and family our weekly Wednesday social lunch hour and Sunday CAIR Florida Connections. Next Sunday, we actually have an immigration and employee rights webinar, like a legal clinic that's online. And so you'll be able to hear a lot about how COVID-19 is affecting your immigration rights or affecting your employment rights. So please join us next Sunday for that. This coming Wednesday, we actually have Sister Dalia Mugahed from the Institute for Social Policy and Understanding. I'm incredibly excited for that conversation. So you have the links again in the chat. Fill out your census, encourage your friends and family to fill it out, tag CAIR Florida on social media when you're filling it out. You know, go ahead and make a video of yourself filling it out, and or say done, and tag CAIR Florida. Same with registering to vote, and follow us on social media. And then finally, of course, you know, donate and support us however you can, inshallah. And otherwise, I want to say, you know, barakallah fikum for joining us. We're going to open it up for Q&A, and then I'm also going to just pass it back to my directors, my co-directors, for any closing remarks, inshallah.
Very good. Jazakumullah khairan, Rania. And I do want to encourage you all, my brothers and sisters. The only thing really in terms of CAIR Florida that makes me sad is when our community members have unanswered questions. So really, I appreciate you being very straightforward. Ask us. This is your organization. It belongs to you. So please take a few minutes right now and just enter in your questions either through the Q&A form or in the chat box. And we would love to answer these questions, or give us advice, give us guidance, let us know what we can do differently. And inshallah, while buying you a few minutes to giving you time to ask your questions, again, to summarize those action items. Number 1, if you want to support CAIR Florida, go to cairflorida.org or text the number, call the number that was provided earlier, or if we can put it back on the screen, that would be great, to support CAIR Florida. Just a quick note, if you go to cair.com, the donations don't come to Florida. Those go to CAIR National. CAIR Florida, alhamdulillah, with our 24 staff, with our 5 offices, is fully independent. And we raise money in Florida to support Florida locally. So that's the number 1 thing. Do what you can, inshallah, to support CAIR Florida, especially with Ramadan, and we're going to be missing our annual fundraisers. Number 2, make sure you follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram. Wilfred is putting that here. Message me if you want to join my WhatsApp blast. I try not to do too much, at the most 1 a day, if that, but they really are important messages for the community. So let me know if you want to join the WhatsApp blast. Again, you can check in the WhatsApp, in the text message section for how to donate. Number 2, you can check the chat for how to join us on social media. Number 3, so again, number 1, consider making a donation. Number 2, following us online so you can stay up to date. Number 3, fill out the form about volunteering and share it with your youth, share it with your children, share it with your friends, because we're only strong together. We have to work together as all of our efforts. So please click the Google Doc so we can activate you to work with us, to advocate with us, to stand with us, inshallah, on behalf of the community. Next, number 4, make sure you're registered to vote by mail. And number 5, make sure you fill out the census. These are very, very important. Number 6, never hesitate to send us any feedback, any questions, any advice on how we can work better together. And finally, number 7, there's the contact information for how to get help from CAIR Florida. I'm going to ask the staff to put that again in the chat box. Please save that number and pass it to everyone. Look, many of you have my cell phone number. My cell phone number is public. If it's an emergency, like the FBI is at your door, call my cell phone. And if I don't answer, text me and I will get back to you immediately. But if it's not an immediate emergency, please do text the number for help and call the number for help that we provided. Let people have that, and just keep us in your du'as. It's just a big honor that all of you, mashallah, have given us so much support to serve our community. With that, I'm going to see if there's no questions. If not, I'll pass it on to the other directors for their closing remarks. We'll make a quick du'a and we will wrap up within the next few minutes. Jazakumullah khairan.
No, just a reminder for everybody to follow us on social media. Our social media name is CAIR Florida, all together in all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, our YouTube channel as well. And donate, help us. We need your help.
Yeah. Thank you again, guys, for being here with us today. I am so happy to see so many of you, and I hope you interact with us. If you have questions, please put them in the chat box. We're happy to answer, but right now just feeling blessed to spend my Easter Sunday with each and every one of you. Love you all very much. Thank you.
And just thank you, alhamdulillah. It's a beautiful thing. You know, CAIR pulled me back from New York. My brother likes to say they saved my soul from New York. And being with the Florida community, honestly, it's a blessing, mashallah. You guys have a beautiful community here. So I'm happy to be part of it and working with the CAIR Florida team. So jazakumullah kullu khairan for joining us today. And Hassan, I'll give it back to you for closing dua.
Jazakallah khair. And do not, one of the amazing things about CAIR Florida is there's so much talent within our community. Like Sister Rania was working for a top global nonprofit in New York City, and we were able to give her an opportunity to serve our community directly through CAIR Florida. So we're very, very honored that she joined us. We're honored for Tanya, mashallah, our Cuban-American sister, who works honestly harder for most Muslims than many Muslims do themselves. May Allah bless you, Sister Tanya. We appreciate your tireless years of service for CAIR Florida. You give us hope in the greatness of this country, that people of different religions, different backgrounds can come together for justice, which is the message of Jesus, peace be upon him. And I know your family must be celebrating Easter today, so I appreciate you taking the time to spend with us. And it's just amazing that we're all standing together to make America the best place it can be for everyone. So again, to summarize, and this may be in different order, but I want to give one last chance. Number 1, do not forget, join us every Sunday and every Wednesday. Sundays at 5 p.m., Wednesdays at noon. There's standing links for each. You can message us to get them and invite your friends to have conversations. Number 2, let us know what trainings you want us to do. We're happy to make the most of this time doing regular trainings. Number 3, consider donating. May Allah bless you. We've grown from, just a couple staff members to 24 through your generous support. So may Allah accept from us together. Consider making those donations. Number 4, save our helpline number and pass it on to people who may need it. Number 5, make sure you register to vote. Make sure you fill out the census. And number 6, encourage your friends to do that. And one of the best ways to be plugged in is by becoming a CAIR Florida advocate. You can do that through the Google link number, inshallah. So make sure you fill out the Google Docs. Number 7, please follow us on social media. And number 8, keep us in your du'as. And number 9, let us know how we can better serve you. This is your organization. The biggest injustice, again, you can do is holding back your criticism, holding back your advice, holding back your guidance. This belongs to all of us, and we're gonna inshallah, accomplish great things together. And I ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from us. Thank you. I'm really touched by all your support. I don't see any more questions, so we'll close with our dua. Ya Allah, we ask you to purify our intentions, to keep our hearts united, to use the temporary time we have in this dunya to serve you and to serve your creation sincerely, and to be a means of others loving you, and to be a means of help for the oppressed. strength for the poor and the needy, healing for the sick. Ya Allah, use us until you are pleased with us and we meet you and you are pleased with us, and keep us united and keep us a means of guidance and strength and support for all your creation, Ya Allah, and keep us sincere and connect our hearts with love and compassion for you first and foremost, and then for each other. Ya Allah, please accept from us and keep us united and help us change this world for the better. Help us reflect the message of mercy that Rasulullah was sent with. Keep us united and make us a means of guidance, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin wa sallallahu alayhi wa Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Feel free to share this presentation to educate people about what CAIR Florida does. MashaAllah, I see on Facebook we've already raised over $541. So Allah bless our donors. I know many of you might have called in or went on our website. You can access it from Facebook and share it, inshallah, and keep us in your prayers. Jazakumullah khairan, everyone. And we look forward to continuing the conversations every week, Wednesday and Thursday and Sunday, inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Ameen. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Take care.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.